There is a prevalence of childhood obesity here in the United States, affecting nearly 13.7 million of our children and adolescents. Since this is a fact that we tend not to realize, being that we live in the United States, I felt it was appropriate to conduct some research into obesity stats amongst America's infants and children. So my goal is to hypothesize primary causes of obesity in children and make some suggestions as to how we can not only lower but also prevent it. So my first set of data that I'm going to look at contains information pertinent to state and territory specific changes in the prevalence of high weight for length among infants in the WIC-PC survey from 2000 to 2004 and also from 2010 to 2014. So the first thing I did was create a pivot table. That's simply by inserting pivot table, and then I ended up with this here. It contains the states and the high WFL percentage per state in order to determine where the highest percentages are and the trends over the time period. So using the information in this pivot chart, I was able to create a map chart where we are able to see exactly where we had the highest high weight for length in 2000 as well as 2004. So just observing the different trends, we'll choose Colorado, for example. In 2000, we see that it's 67%. And then we go over to 2004 and it's 7.4%. So it decreased tremendously between 2000 and 2004. My second pivot table here contains really the same information but for different time period, for 2010 to 2014, and I wanted to create a different chart that really will allow us to compare the WFL percentages throughout the two different time periods across all the states. So obviously between 2010, which is the blue line, and 2014, the orange line, we typically see that the obesity did decrease. There are parts where it's sort of just super high, and it's in certain states, and that's something we'll look further into at a later point. My second set of data here shows past and projected rates of child obesity between ages of 3 and 17 here in the USA. So what I want to do is add these two tables to our data model so that I can perform a comparative analysis of all this information between the boys and the girls. Now that I have my pivot table containing past and projected rates of child obesity for boys and girls over the years of 1991 and projected years of 2020, I'm going to just insert a table. I think I would like to see a bar graph. I think it'll be the easiest comparison. And I'm just going to hide all of the field buttons on the chart. And there we go. Now, in order for me to look at the correlation between fast food chains and obesity, I'm going to be looking at these two different sets of data, the total locations of popular fast food chains in the US, as well as the number of fast food stores per state. So I'm going to just add these two data tables to a data model. So here's a creation of my pivot table. Under the rows I have the state, and under values I have the number of stores. I'm going to create a bar chart so we could compare the number of stores per state. Okay. Now I'm creating a pivot table that has the different fast food chains, and the value would be the total number of locations per in the U.S. Okay, so to get a good look at this one, I'm going to insert a pie chart. In order to observe past and projected rates of child obesity in the United States, I created a bar graph that contains pertinent data for boys and girls between the ages of 3 and 17. There is evident growth in the rate of obesity between 1991 to 2015, and next year obesity is expected to grow even higher to nearly 30%. An interesting observation to make is that males have a higher rate than females. Various scientific sources state that there is a direct correlation between unhealthy food habits and obesity. In order to see this correlation, I obtained data relating to the number of fast food chains across each state and the number of popular fast food chains in the U.S. So Texas has the second highest number of fast food chain stores, and also grew from 16% to 17%. 17.4% in high weight for length between the years of 2000 and 2004. So Texas also has the 8th highest obesity rate in the United States. California is number one with the highest number of fast food chain stores at a high of 7,843 stores. So McDonald's, Subway, and Starbucks are the leading fast food chains within the U.S. So the conclusion I drew and my hypothesis is that there are socioeconomic causes of obesity where children are being raised, what resources they have to obtain healthier meals, and it is cheaper to rely on fast food than it is to rely on organic vegetables and proteins. If the U.S. Fast food chains are willing to offer cheaper and healthier options to the nation's children, and children are educated early on as to how they can maintain their health and fitness, and we can live in an overall healthier country. And here is a close-up on each. Something that was helpful for me in completing this assignment was just adding all of my tables to a data model. That way I can extrapolate whatever information I want to create these seamless, easy little tables within, and being able to create these nice, clean charts that made it very easy for me to interpret and analyze information. So just adding information to a data model is something that I didn't know how to do before this class, and that was really useful in organizing all of my information because I used a lot of small tables, including this giant one, to create my dashboard.